Hi everyone. We are in week 4 of our Weight Loss SmackDown, and we're talking this week about the things that energetically and vibrationally affect our bodies and ultimately our weight loss and ability not only to create change, but to maintain that change. Earlier in this module, we talked about the vibrational measurements of foods and how that affects your overall health, how what you consume can cause a vibrational abundance, which equals a state of, health and healing, or how you can plummet and literally hold yourself in a complete and total deficit, which causes your body to experience illness, weight retention, and stuckness. Today, we're talking about the same exact subject, but in regards to the emotions that we feel. Now, emotions have just as much, if not even more, of an effect on the body than the foods that we actually put in our mouths. Emotions have a tendency to kind of ricochet around within the tissues and the energy pathways of the body, causing us to experience almost like a looping effect of our thoughts and then downward emotional spirals that are really hard to break. So in today's workshop, like our session on food earlier this week, keep in mind that memorizing numbers is not the important thing here. What is important is bringing conscious thought to what you're experiencing and how that is affecting your goals to try and create change, through that to experience peace, and ultimately, the reason you're actually in this course, to lose weight. We all the time look only to foods when we're addressing weight loss, but if I have had one consistent message through this course, it has been that it is not all about the food. So let's talk about how the emotions actually affect the body and try to put some of these pieces together. Okay, so you remember in our workshop earlier this week, we were looking at our goal vibrational rating of 70 for us to maintain health, healing, and experience vitality and vibrancy. And we're following a similar rating system today, as you'll see here in this graph, when we are looking at the emotional energetics. And you'll find yourself moving up or down the vibrational emotional scale depending on your vibrational state, which is affected by, your foods, your thoughts, your emotions, and your energetic flows at any given time. So you're not going to be stationary or stagnant at any place on the scale. We're in fleshly bodies, and while in the flesh, you are not going to have perfection. Emotions are going to be experienced that are very high and very, very low. It is our birthright to have such amazing contrast. However, with that said, let's see if we can shed some light on where we want to stay on the emotional scale and how that affects our vibrational state and our goal vibrational state. At the high end of the emotional scale, which adds positive vibration to the body and puts you in a state of abundance, fluidity, and a frequency that the body can easily grasp and hold on to and maintain a healing space on the vibrational spectrum, we have a measurement of 80. This is very open and fluid state. This is the highest level of emotional energetics that you can experience. And at this level, you're experiencing amazing vitality and feeling unconditional, agape love, acceptance for yourself and others. All of your actions are driven from love, and you have a full connection with yourself and with the spirit. We move down one level, and we see then at a rating of 70, we're experiencing, complete and total presence in the moment that you're at. You're not projecting to the future, and you're not reliving the past. You're completely present. You have inner peace and stillness, mental and emotional illumination, conscious of all the thoughts and emotions and actions that you're processing. A step down from that, we have a rating of 60, and at 60 you're experiencing inner joy, you're welcoming change, and you have a fluid life flow. You have an abundance mindset versus, really focusing on lack and maybe what you're missing, and you're very enthusiastic. A step down from that, at level 50, we have a reverence for beauty and appreciation for beauty and life around you, compassion and empathy for others, and divine inspiration and action. A step down from that, we have level 40, forgiveness. Oh my gosh, this is so huge. Forgiveness. You're harmonious with others, people you come into contact with. You have a mindset of really allowing life to unfold instead of feeling like you have to control it and manipulate it and clamp down on it. You're in a state of allowance and wisdom. You're really looking at and practicing the wisdom that you've been getting. And you see here on the funnel, as it goes down, it's getting closer and closer and getting closed in more and more as we kind of get lower. The next level down is level 30. Appreciation and gratitude are your dominant emotions here. You have a definite devotion and clarity to your life path, and you are practicing generosity. Down from that, you're at a level 20, experiencing hopefulness and optimisticness in relationship to yourself and to the world around you. You're staying in the vibration of inspiration, clear intention, instead of being reactionary in your living. And here at a level 10, you're experiencing satisfaction with your life station, and you're staying neutral to what is happening around you. You're definitely in a release of resistance, and you have the courage to move forward. But unlike the emotions that are higher, you're just more kind of neutral or accepting. And you'll see when you get here again to the ratings of 10 and we begin dropping into the lower emotions below this, we see the body begin to get stagnant. We get sick more easily. We slide into and are affected by lower vibrations more easily. And truthfully, if you're staying resident in more of the one of the lower end of the positive spectrum or in the upper end of the negative emotional spectrum, your food intake becomes even more important, because your thoughts are always with you, always changing, and always affecting you in the very moment that you're experiencing them. So again, you go kind of up and down this scale, this emotional scale, but we want to be mindful of how this is affecting our overall body energetics. Okay, so let's take a look at how the emotions that we experience that are on the lower end of the vibrational scale measure up and affect our body. Remember that the numbers here are not important. We're not actually trying to memorize a bunch of facts and figures here. Our goal is to actually bring in tools to help us discern how we can create a new life experience. We are looking at all the ways, the pieces of the puzzle that need to come into play when we are addressing weight loss. Knowledge is power. Bringing conscious attention to the emotions that you're allowing yourself to dwell on and swim around in empowers you so that you can actually do something about it. Looking at the graph here, we see that at the top of our emotional scale, even though we're working with the lower vibrational emotions here, we're still somewhat open in a lower vibrational way, but definitely inching toward a very narrow and very closed, even totally shut down state. Remember that when we're looking at the body goal of being an average of 70, when you have something that not only has a low ranking, but if you'll pay attention and look at this graph, it actually has a negative ranking. That is a huge deal. So it's not only just where we're trying to have an average of 70, but when you experience and when you stay in for long periods of time, a more lower vibrational emotion, it will actually have a full negative draw and a negative spiral on your health. So even if you're taking supplements and eating foods that are ranking high on the vibrational scale, if you allow yourself to swim around in a lower emotional vibration, it can almost negate some of the very positive and clean eating practices that you may employ by keeping the body in a place where it cannot bring in enough energy to heal and rebuild. Looking at the top of the funnel, this would be metaphorically one step down from the lower end of the positive emotion or higher vibrational scale that we just covered. When you pretty much are running these types of emotions on a regular basis, you are going to feel like you are moving about in miry clay, stuck, and it is going to be easier to be more negative than positive. You'll actually have to fight to stay in a positive mindset. However, that is why we are covering this in the SmackDown and why I have given you the tools that I have in order to help you identify and then totally do something about these types of emotional patterns and self-sabotage habits that we run. So looking right down below, the positive emotional scale, we see that even with the first layer here, we are still pretty expanded, but the emotions here actually, like we covered, takes away from your overall vibrational state. So first we have actually where it takes away a measurement of 10 on this scale, and you would be experiencing pridefulness, fully ego driven, scornful of others, being very demanding, and even indifferent, almost removed to the state of people and world around you. A step down from that, where you're at a negative 20, you're going to have consistent anger and irritability. You're antagonistic towards others, aggressive really in trying to get your way. Below that, we have a negative 30, where you're just sitting with great disappointment. And this is actually very, very common, and craving for what you don't have. Sitting here for like almost an enslavement to your addictions and habits, and even a denial of reality, all of those emotions. And this is a very, very common layer for people to spend a lot of time on. That takes away at a measurement of a negative 30. Below that, we have at a negative 40 fear and anxiety around any life change. It's very, very rigid, blaming others for your state. Just everything that you experience, your first thought is, who did that to you? Who caused this situation? If this wasn't like this, it's just a blaming state, feeling threatened and threatening others in your mind or actually acting it out. And even hate kind of falls right here into this. Below that, negative 50, you have deep sadness and grief, depleted, of mental and emotional strength at this state, and very, very burdened. This is another very, very common area that people will get on this layer, and they find a really hard time to move out of it. It's just very, very it's just like quicksand. It's just an area that you get very, very stuck in. Below that, at negative 60, we experience constant despair, hopelessness, and when you get to this point, it's just kind of a beaten down, resigned to your current state that you're in right then. Below that, at a negative 70, we have feeling and acting very vindictive. And at this level, you're going to tend to be kind of destructive and very, very manipulative. And here at the bottom, that's very, very closed in, we have feeling shame, and this is going to be like a very deep-seated shame, thoughts of death, humiliation, and a lot of times despising God and your life. At this point, once you get down to the bottom, you'll see it's so narrow, you're fully encased and stuck. At that point, it's going to be very, very hard to feel like that you can move forward. You're going to be very, very stagnant in your life. You're completely contracted, closed down. Remember though, we slide up and down this emotional scale every day. This is not to say that you can't feel shame or grief or be neutral, because the resistance to emotion is actually worse than the emotion itself. And so we're definitely not trying to put something else on you, for it to be a weight. because you will feel emotion. But what you can do is to work so that you're triggered to the lower states less often. You practice staying positive and keeping your mind and emotions more firmly entrenched in the upper vibrational levels to create, abundance and fluidity rather than a deficit in your vibrational states. You're looking here at just a small comparative snapshot at some of the organ and food frequencies that we covered earlier in our Module 4 workshop on the energetic body compared with what we're talking about today. While the scales are measured differently between, foods and organs, you can see that everything you experience affects your overall state. The take-home message is to use the tools that I am giving you in this program to keep yourself as high vibrationally as you can. And that is paying attention to the foods that you're consuming. It's working with and paying attention to the thoughts that you're thinking and the emotions that you're allowing yourself to process. You're going to consume things that are on all levels of the spectrum. You're going to think things that affect you at all levels and frequencies on the spectrum, and you're going to have emotions that you are going to experience again on all levels of the spectrum, but it is where you allow yourself to stay stuck or to swim around in a positive, spot that's really going to matter and take the difference. It's what you're doing consistently, not just that you're experiencing here and there. When dealing with emotions, it is one thing for us to experience an emotional reaction to a situation, but it is a whole other issue when that emotion becomes your overall theme, and that happens a lot. Most people remain over 50% of the time in a more depressive, blameful, or critical state than they do a true joy, contentment, and peaceful state. So be aware. Be aware of what's going on with you and do the work to reframe your relationship with the emotions that you feel. Feel the emotions. They're not bad, but don't let them define you. It's like a piece of chocolate cake isn't necessarily bad, once a week or once a month. But what is bad is if you have it every single meal, every single day, year after year. It's the same with emotions. You're going to have them, but you don't have to overindulge in the lower vibrational ones. I'm telling you, I am so proud of you and so thankful for you, each and every one of you, for giving me the opportunity to take this journey with you and for you doing the work and going through this course here with the SmackDown. Now, move forward. Take consistent action. Don't just watch the video and not move forward. Do the work and create the change that you desire.